Tales from Ridgeway, Furrow. Chapter 1. A Whistle and a Wonder. "I must be the happiest mouse in all of Ridgeway, Furrow," said Harry as he looked out one beautiful morning. The sun shone down over the little stone bridge, casting ripples of diamond light across the stream which bounced onto the riverbank. The daisies and buttercups danced along to the music of the water on a gentle summer breeze. Harry took in the fresh air and smiled, twitching his little nose. "I do love my walks," said Harry. "When everyone else is asleep, the world is mine." Ridgeway Furrow truly was a magical place to live. You see, Harry was at his happiest when he was helping others, and there was always someone who needed help if he went looking for it. Harry wondered if Mr. Frog needed a hand. Old Froggy was always getting stuck in silliest of places. Harry often helped his friend down from high things a frog should not be hopping onto, but Froggy kept doing it and never seemed to learn. Harry searched the bank and the stream for his friend, but instead of a familiar green face, something blue was bobbing along the surface of the water. The little mouse leaned over for a closer look. It stood out because it was very unusual colour against so many shades of green and brown. "What is that?" Harry muttered to himself. "It doesn't look like an animal at all." It seemed to be a plastic packet of something. The blue thing floated by and disappeared into the distance. Harry continued to wander along. "Maybe I'll pick some blackberries for Katie," he thought to himself, starting to look for signs of any lovely berries. Harry's wife Katie made the best blackberry pie in the whole of Ridgeway Furrow. Harry's mouth watered at the thought of it. "This is the perfect day for some blackberry pie," he thought. But before Harry could head out to the bramble patch on the edge of Sorrel Wood, he heard a cry. "Harry, hey Harry, can you help us please?" The voice was muffled, but it sounded just like old Froggy. Sure enough, Mr. Frog hopped onto the path beside the mouse. He was carrying the blue plastic object in his mouth, the very same one that Harry had seen bobbing along minutes earlier. The frog tried to talk again, spat out the blue thing, and tried again. It's the water voles. They have a problem and they need our help," said Mr. Frog. He hopped about, eager to get going. "Come on, Harry." "Of course," replied Harry. "Lead the way. But whatever is the matter?" "It's their home. It's ruined, all clogged up with bits and bats, and this and that the people throw away. The children are trapped inside the burrow, and Vera Vole is so worried," Mr. Frog explained. The two friends hopped and scurried to the water vole's burrow as quickly as they could. To Harry's surprise, the usual green leafy entrance was now covered in multicolour packets of bottles and cans, and every few seconds another piece of rubbish joined what was already there. Harry scrambled down the bank and found Vera Vole frantically trying to put bottles away from her doorway. "It's stuck, Harry. My children are inside. What am I going to do?" "Don't worry, Vera. If we all help, we can soon clear up this mess." Harry and Vera tugged at the bottle, but it wouldn't budge. "Try wiggle it," suggested Mr. Frog as he swam back and forth with the litter that he had caught in the twigs along the water's edge. Harry and Vera worked together, wiggling and tugging the bottle until finally it flew out with a pop. The little vole pups scurried out of the burrow and Vera hugged them. "Oh, I was so worried," said Vera. The pups didn't seem bothered at all and soon ran off to feast on the grasses along the bank where they could chuckle and play together. They would have something to talk about at bedtime for sure. Thank you so much, kind mouse. And you too, Froggy, said Vera with a smile. Then she shook her head. My home is clear for today, but I fear the litter will be just as bad tomorrow. You see, these twigs stop the soil around my burrow from being washed away in the stream, but they also catch any of the things that float along. I love it here, and I really don't want to move. I'm just so tired of clearing litter every day. Harry and Mr. Frog said their goodbyes and set off home. Harry was happy to have helped Vera Vole, but it seemed there was a bigger problem to solve, and this problem just wouldn't go away on its own. Chapter 2: A Story to Tell. Harry left Mr. Frog and walked home with a heavy heart. Part of him was happy he'd managed to free the vole pups, but knowing the litter would continue made him sad too. He put his happy face on as he walked through the door and prepared for a cuddle attack. Daddy! Shouted his son and daughter, Alfie and Lizzie. They charged towards him, tails whirling and whiskers in the air twitching. Harry opened his paws wide, and the little ones jumped right in for possibly the biggest cuddle ever seen in Ridgeway Furrow. Well, since Harry came home the day before at least. Hello, you two. Have you been good for Mummy? Asked Harry. Yes, of course, squealed Lizzie, and told him all about how they had helped Mum collect grass seeds for lunch. Said Katy. Not so much helping. More like playing hide and seek in the long grasses and getting under my feet. Alfie excitedly told how he was learning how to fly with the butterflies. Harry giggled. A determined mouse can achieve almost anything, but flying possibly wasn't one of them. You know, Alfie, if you think you can fly, then I'm sure one day you'll make it happen, said Harry with a smile. Harry smiled at his lovely family. He could just imagine how much fun they had racing around the big field. You look tired, Katy, my dear. Why don't you sit down while I serve tea? He suggested. The mouse family tucked into a delicious meal of hazelnut roast with leafy salad. Katy truly was a fabulous cook, but Harry always teased her that he was better. Soon, everyone was sat back satisfied with full tummies. Despite the lovely meal, Harry sighed. The events of the day were still troubling him. Daddy, will you tell us a story about your adventures? Asked little Alfie. I think Daddy is tired, Alfie. Why don't you do some bedtime stories tonight? Suggested Katy. Oh, I think I can manage a quick story before I rest my paws, said Harry. Now go get ready for bed, and don't forget to wash behind your ears, and Alfie, you still have crumbs in your whiskers. With the promise of a story, the little mice were ready for bed in the twitch of a whisker. Harry shuffled in between Lizzie and Alfie and snuggled them to him. Tonight, I'm going to tell you the story of how I rescued the baby voles. I was wandering down the stream, and then all of a sudden, Mr. Frog came bounding along. Did he get stuck on a log again? Asked Lizzie. Mr. Frog stuck on a log, rhymed Alfie and giggled. No, not this time, Lizzie, continued Harry. Mr. Frog took me downstream to Vera Vole's burrow. And do you know what I found there? A giant cookie, asked Alfie, rubbing his tummy. A big scary fox, said Lizzie, hiding her eyes with fear. No cookies or scary foxes. I found the stream covered with litter. It had completely blocked the entrance of Vera Vol's burrow, and the babies were stuck inside. Baby Vol stuck in a hole, rhymed Alfie, giggling again. Shush, Alfie, said Lizzie, poking her brother. I want to hear the rest of the story. Oh. Mr. Frog cleared up all the rubbish from the stream. Back and forth he swam until every last bit was piled on the bank. But that wasn't the biggest problem. Oh no. A plastic bottle was stuck at the entrance of the burrow. Vera and I tugged and tugged the bottle until it flew out of the hole. The baby voles were rescued, and then we all went home for tea. Tell us another story, Daddy, both mice pleaded. No, I think that's enough for tonight. Now snuggle down and sweet dreams, little ones. Harry tucked Lizzie and Alfie in and rubbed noses with each of them. Harry wandered back to the living room and made himself and Katy a cup of nettle tea. He then slumped down into his favourite chair and handed Katy her cup as she sat down next to him. Now, why don't you tell me what's troubling you, my love? She said kindly. I heard the tale about rescuing Vera's pups, but that's not the whole story, is it? Harry took a sip of his tea and smiled at Katy. How did you get to be so wise? You're right, it isn't the whole story. We cleared the litter today, but Vera told me that it's like that every day. Where is all this litter coming from? I saw 2 more bottles of crisp packets floating by while I walked home. Poor Vera is at her wit's end. Katy pondered for a moment as she sipped her tea. I think we need to gather everyone together and clear up our stream. You're right, my dear, said Harry. It's not fair that Vera should have to live like that. It looks a mess, and it's dangerous for all the water animals. Can you imagine if one of Mr. Frog's froglets got stuck on a bottle? Or if a plastic bag got wrapped around another pup? It's too scary to think about. But do you think the other creatures will help me clearing up the litter? Of course they will, Katy reassured him. You've spent your days helping others. They'll only be happy to help repay the favour. Now let's get an early night before the big task ahead tomorrow. You're right, my dear. On my own I can't do much, but together we can do anything. That's my motto, Harry said proudly. That's one of your many mottos, dear, smiled Katy. Chapter 3. Gathering the Helpers. Early the next morning, Harry set off to round up as many helpers as possible. It was another beautiful day in Ridgeway Furrow, and the countryside was full with singing birds, dancing butterflies, and buzzing bees. It was a strange day for a happy mouse, though. Usually, he would be the one doing the helping, but today his mission was to ask for as many people to help as possible. He was sure his friends would join in once they had explained the problem. First stop, Mr. Frog's stone. Now, it might not seem very pleasant home, but Mr. Frog loved his muddy home under a pile of stones. He lived right on the edge of the stream, not far from Harry's home under the little stone bridge. Of course I'll help you, Harry, said the frog when Harry explained the plan. I'll swim downstream and round up the water animals. Great idea, said Harry. We'll meet under the bridge. Harry left the stream and headed uphill. The rabbits lived under the hedge leading to a field. Harry often chatted with Flora Rabbit when he picked blackberries. You see, as much as Harry liked helping others, he also liked chatting too. Everyone in Ridgeway Furrow knew Harry. The hedge had the best blackberry patch in all of the area, and there was always plenty to share. He usually picked a few for the rabbits as well, before taking his home. You see, being a small mouse, he could sneak around the bramble thorns to get the juiciest blackberries where the other animals couldn't reach. Harry found Flora stretched out, snoozing in this sunny patch of grass. Her kids, Clover, Daisy, and Yarrow were playing nearby. Harry's children loved playing with the young rabbits. He really hoped Flora would agree to help, as Alfie and Lizzie would be so pleased to see their friends. Gently, he woke up the snoozing bunny. "Sorry to disturb you, Miss Flora. I was wondering if you could help me out today." Flora stretched and yawned. "It's time I was awake anyway. What can I do to help, Harry?" Harry explained the situation while Flora listened, eyes wide with worry. "Of course we'll help. We all drink down that stream. You know what else is going into that water? What if it's not safe to drink anymore?" Harry hadn't thought of that, but she was right. It was an even bigger problem than he first thought. Flora promised to gather the other rabbits and meet down at the bridge. Harry smiled to himself and set off towards Sorrel Wood. He already had a lot of helpers, and he still hadn't asked any of the woodland creatures. Of course, he whistled and wondered. This was going to be a good day after all, and Harry knew if he had worked as a team, they could do anything. The little mouse had just reached the jungle of ferns that marked the edge of Sorrel Wood, when something big and black swooped down before him. Harry squealed and jumped back in fear. He looked around for somewhere to hide. "What are you doing, little mouse?" a croaky voice called. Harry looked up at the big black bird. His head was crooked to one side, and his shiny eyes were full of fun and mischief. He didn't look too scary after all. "Who are you?" Harry asked. Then remembered his manners. "I'm Harry. Pleasure to meet you." "The name's Jerry Jackdaw. I was flying over and I thought I saw something wiggly like a worm. Worms make a scrummy lunch. But it was just your tail," he said sadly. "Don't think I'm a fussy eater, but I'm not too keen on mouse tails." Harry coiled his tail tightly in between his legs. He didn't fancy becoming a jackdaw's lunch. "Well, that's a good thing," said Harry. "So, what are you doing?" Jerry tried to ask again. "I'm off to the woods to see if any animals, and birds," Harry added swiftly to not hurt Jerry's feelings, "would be willing to clean up the stream with me." "Clean up? Will there be any shiny things?" "I love shiny things." Jerry hopped up and down excitedly. Yes, there might be. Perhaps a shiny paper, or maybe some shiny packets," Harry replied. I'll help. Show me where the shiny things are." Harry giggled at the bird's enthusiasm. It gave him an idea. It wasn't just jackdaws that liked shiny things. Crows and other birds did too. Jerry would be able to gather more birds and send them down to the little bridge. It would save me a job. And still, I need to find the squirrels. Of course, I can fly fast. I can get all the birds and the squirrels too," Jerry replied. He puffed up his chest feathers, clearly pleased to be able to help. "But the shiny things first are mine, okay?" "Okay," Harry agreed, giggling. "You can have the first pick of all the shiny things we find." With Jerry in agreement to round up all the birds and the squirrels, Harry set off back to the stream. As soon as he passed under the old oak tree, he thought about asking Mr. Bat. He was sure Sebastian and his wife Darcy would help, but the troubling thing was, Bats slept during the day. Harry wasn't sure how much help he could be anyway. He was pondering the usefulness of bats when hopping through the grass verge along the embankment of the stream. Harry couldn't believe his eyes. The bank from Mr. Frog's house right down to the little bridge was filled with creatures. Squirrels scampered, rabbits hopped, and frogs and voles swam to the bank. Above, Jerry led a mixed flock of jackdaws, crows, wood pigeons, and even a few sparrows. The birds landed on top of the little bridge. The sound of excited chat was in the air. "See, Harry, I told you that they would help if you asked them," said Katy with a smile as she got everyone into an orderly manner. Harry smiled back at his wife, stood tall, and prepared himself to organise the stream clean-up. Chapter 4. Saving the Stream. Harry shouted as loud as he could, "Thank you all for coming," but his voice was barely heard above all the noise. With chatter from 100 woodland creatures, squeaks, cheeps, squawks, rabbits, the little mouse feared he would never be heard. "Would you like some help there, Harry?" Harry turned to see a giant hare towering above him, his long whiskers twitching. Sir Albert Hare was the mayor of Ridgeway, Furrow. "Whoa! Even the mayor is here to help," thought Harry. Sir Albert was the smartest hare you could ever imagine. He also towered above all the other animals and had a booming voice that demanded respect. "Yes, please, sir. A little help to get their attention would be appreciated." Sir Albert raised his back foot and thumped the ground. It sent a wave of vibrations through the earth. As one, the animals and birds fell silent. They turned to look at who called their attention. The giant hare looked over the crowd. "Your attention, please, fairy creatures of Ridgeway Furrow. I am your mayor." His voice boomed out, and every bird and animal listened. Even the little ones who stopped tussling to see what has happened. "Katy and her husband Harry here have something to say. These tiny mice deserve our total respect and thanks." "Okay, over to you." Harry cleared his throat. "Thank you so much for coming to help. For safety, my wife Katy and I have taken the youngsters to play in the field. We'll all be able to see them from there, and we'll take turns to watch them." A rabbit dad, a couple of squirrels, and Dave the rat volunteered to help. Sir Albert raised his paw for a silence and nodded to Harry to continue. "Swimmers, your task is to collect rubbish from the water and bring it to the bank. Land animals, please collect the litter from along the bank and pile it up here where we can't roll it back into the water. And birds, I have an extra special task for you. I remember when I lived in the city that people have bins at the side of the road. I need you to take the rubbish and drop it into the bins. Now spread out along the stream and let's work together to make our home a cleaner place for us all to live." Harry threw both hands in the air, and a cheer went up from the crowd below, and Harry beamed a wide, twitchy-nosed smile. "You heard the mouse," said Vera. "We have a stream to clear. Let's get to work." Sir Albert turned to Harry. "Good work, young mouse. Good work." Katy smiled at Vera. "I'm so sorry to hear about what happened yesterday. It must have been scary." "It really was. I'm so grateful to everyone for helping today." "It's our pleasure, Vera. You would do the same for us," said Katy, putting her arm around her friend. Good old Froggy took charge of the swimming clear-up crew. They pulled packets from twigs, rooted out bottles stuck under the mud, grabbed cartons caught in roots, and took them out of the bank. Working in pairs, they spread themselves out along the stream and gradually moved along until every patch of water was clear from below Vera's Vol's home to beyond Harry's little stone bridge. Up on the bank, Harry split the squirrels, rats, and rabbits into 5 groups. Each group formed a line up from the stream's edge. They passed the litter up the line, and the last of the animals in each group piled the litter. Even Sir Albert joined in. Jerry Jackdaw took pride in organising the birds to fly litter to the bins. He wasn't very often allowed to be the one in charge of anything. Harry suspected the reason was so Jerry could get the first pick of the shiny things for his collection. After a couple of hours of hard work, the childcare team and the children returned with armfuls of berries to feed the workers. By the look of the red-stained paws and snouts of the little ones, they'd already eaten plenty of the delicious berries themselves. After they'd eaten, Sir Albert offered to take care of the pups and kids, probably because he wanted to sit down after his hard work. Although he quickly found that Harry was also hard-working looking after the children, Harry wanted to personally thank each creature for giving up their time. He could see that everyone he thanked really liked the fact that he'd taken the time to do it, and anything that encouraged the others to work even harder. Soon the stream and the bank were clear. All that was left was a pile of Jerry's favourite shiny things. He bundled the shiny packets, ring pulls, and silver foil together. After thanking Harry for his shiny treasure, he flew off, back to his home in the village. "See you soon, Jerry," shouted Harry as he waved goodbye to his new friend. Harry liked Jerry. He watched as the bird's huge wings flapped across the sky slowly. "You know, Katie," said Harry, "unexpected friendships are the best ones." After thanks and goodbyes, Harry and Katie and the mice children went home. Harry hugged his family. It had been a great day to be part of Ridgeway Furrow community, and Harry couldn't believe what they had done together. "Oh, I do love it when everyone pulls together," said Katie. Harry nodded, and he put his arm around Katie as they walked home. Chapter 5. A Little Girl. The next morning, Harry woke with a smile. The sun was shining down on him, and he couldn't wait to get back out for a walk. "What a beautiful day," he said, as he sat up and stretched out his arms with a big smile. He was not quite ready to open his eyes fully, though. He chatted with Katie about his plans. He wanted to check that they hadn't missed any litter, and popped back to see Vera Vole, just to make sure everything was okay. Katie kissed him goodbye, and Harry picked up the lunch he had made the night before. "I've made one for you too," he said as he waved goodbye. Katie guessed that he would be out for a while. With a spring in his step, Harry set off. He marvelled at how beautiful the stream looked. The water sparkled in the sunshine, and every pebble shone like a precious jewel. Harry could see right to the bottom of the stream, and occasionally a fish would swim along. They nodded, and Harry tipped his hat to them, even though he wasn't wearing one. Harry reached the willow tree and decided to sit under its shady branches while he had a small snack. The wind rustled through the small leaves and breeze filled with the bird's song. He had just unwrapped his lunch when something bobbed past on the water. It looked like a plastic bottle, the same kind of bottle that had got stuck in Vera's burrow. Oh no, more litter!" Harry cried. He dropped his packed lunch and scampered to the water's edge. The bottle was caught against the willow root that stuck out from the bank. The little mouse leaned over and reached to it. "Danger! Danger!" squawked the familiar voice of Jerry Jackdaw. "Harry, quick! There's a little girl coming!" Jerry swooped down to warn Harry. Harry turned to look at the little girl ducked under the willow tree. He tried to scramble back down the bank, but he was leaning too far over. The mouse lost his footing and fell in with a splash into the water. Now, as you may know, mice can swim if they have to, but they really do prefer to be on dry land. Harry splashed towards the bottle, thinking he could climb onto it, then jumped onto the bank. There was still the problem of the little girl under the willow, but hopefully he could sneak past without letting her notice. Let's get back on dry land, he thought. Then I'll think about the little girl. That was the plan anyway, but as soon as Harry scrambled onto the bottle, it spun into the water. The movement freed the bottle from the tree roots, and it set off its journey down the stream. Harry dug his claws into the slippery plastic and held on. This is going to be a very bumpy ride. Little girl coming, quick Harry, Jerry called as he swooped over the stream. Harry looked up to see a huge hand reaching out to grab him. He squealed in terror and tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go other than into the water, and he really didn't want to go back in there. Poor little mouse, I'll rescue you, the little girl said. She grabbed the mouse and the bottle and lifted them out of the water. There you go, little mouse. You're safe now. The second the bottle touched the ground, Harry leapt off and ran for the long grasses. His heart pounding, but he survived. Jerry landed beside Harry, looked at the soaking mouse up and down. Are you okay, my mousy friend? Harry nodded, shaking the water droplets off his fur. I was so scared. When I lived in the city, people were mean and cruel. They kicked us, threw things at us, or sent their cats to chase us away. This one cat, Lulu, chased me over an hour at once. They just don't give up. It sounded like a very cute name, but she really wasn't very nice to mice or birds for that matter. Harry shuddered at the memories, and now Jerry was concerned at the mention of the birds. I thought that girl was going to hurt me, said Harry. I used to live on the streets, you know. It was hard, said Harry. How did you get here? Asked Jerry. It's a long story for another time, Harry said with a smile. Not all people are bad, you know. Some people leave food out for the birds in the gardens. And shiny things. People always have a lot of shiny things. The jackdaw's eyes twinkled with delight as he talked about all the special shiny things he'd found in gardens. Finally, after checking his friend was all right, Jerry said goodbye and took to the skies with a caw. Harry was feeling better and drier. He peeped out from the grass where he'd been hiding. The little girl was still there. She was sitting in the grass, leaning against the willow tree. The girl had a book in her lap and was mouthing the words as she read. She didn't seem at all scary now, and she appeared to have saved Harry from the water. Maybe she was one of the nice people Jerry had talked about. Harry thought about what happened. The girl hadn't been trying to hurt him, she'd just been trying to help. Suddenly, Harry felt bad for running away. I really should say thank you, Harry thought. After all, it is the polite thing to do. Harry grabbed a hazelnut from his packed lunch wrapper and crept towards the girl. She looked up from her book and watched him creep towards her. Slowly, she reached out her hand and stopped just centimeters from his twitching nose. Hello, little mouse. Are you okay after your dunk in the stream? Said the little girl. Harry nodded. He could understand her words, but he doubted she could understand mouse language. The child giggled. Can you understand me, little mouse? Harry nodded again, and gave his best twitchy nose smile. He inched forward and dropped the nut in her hand. "Is this for me?" she said, delighted with her gift. Harry nodded again. He wondered what stories had been in her book and crept forwards to look. The girl stayed still, so Harry crept a little closer. To his dismay, the book was filled with black squiggles. Harry wished he could read people's books. He had seen writing all over things, especially when lived in the city. There were signs and numbers everywhere. "Do you want me to read you a story, little mouse?" Harry nodded once more and climbed up onto her knee. "Okay. This is a story about a fox who stole the moon." Harry listened in wonder, trying to remember all the words. It would make a fantastic bedtime story for Alfie and Lizzie, Harry thought. As soon as the story was over, Harry climbed up onto the book and stood up on his hind legs to reach the girl. She leaned down to look at him. "Thank you for saving me, and thanks for the amazing story." Harry knew she couldn't understand his words, but she seemed to understand his actions. "It's sometimes not what we say, but how we say it," said Harry. Harry ran home with a smile on his face. It had been an amazing day, and he couldn't wait to tell Katie and tell the bedtime stories to the children. The children sometimes didn't believe Harry's tales, but this time it would all be true. Chapter 6. An Adventure. The following day, Harry promised to take Alfie and Lizzie for a picnic at the willow tree. The children couldn't believe that their father had met a real girl and made friends with her no less. They begged Harry to take them to meet her. It was a beautiful day for a family outing. Harry loved his lonely whistle wanders, but today he would enjoy having Katie and his children by his side as they set off down the stream. "There's nothing better than family activity," Harry said. Alfie ran off ahead, wanted to be the first to find the girl. Katie called him back and thought she should sit the little ones down for a quick chat. "Look, I know we are all very excited, but you need to be careful. Let Daddy go first. You see, not all people are friendly. If you just run up to one of the bad ones, it could be very dangerous, and we wouldn't want anything bad to happen to you, sweetie." "Your mummy is right, my two little ones. I was very careful and watched and waited for the long time before I approached the girl yesterday. You must treat all strangers with caution, whether they are animal, bird, or person," said Harry, using his serious dad voice. "Any strangers equal danger," Katie agreed. Stranger danger," rhymed Alfie, giggling. But for all his bravado, he slipped his paw into Katie's and held her hand tightly. He knew when Daddy used that voice, he was serious. Harry scampered on ahead and ducked under the leafy branches of the willow. The tree hung so low that the willow leaves brushed the tips of the long grass. Underneath was a green, leafy cave of shade that swayed with the morning breeze. It was the perfect spot for a picnic. Harry could see why the little girl had chosen this place to read her book. Harry stopped and sniffed the air. "Can you imagine a more perfect place for a picnic?" he said. The rest of the family smiled. As he looked under the willow, Harry was both disappointed and confused. The little girl wasn't there, but old Froggy was, and he was not happy. Harry waved to Katie and the kids, so it was safe to come out. Then turned to Mr. Frog. "Hey, Froggy, what's wrong? You look so glum." Look, said Mr. Frog, stepping aside to reveal a pile of litter. It's back. After all our hard work yesterday, it's back. I'd planned to go fishing, but I didn't plan on fishing bottles and packets out of the stream. We can't spend forever clearing out our lovely home. Because we did such a good job yesterday, it's not as bad. But we can't go on like this, Harry. Oh no, said Harry, shaking his head in dismay. I just don't know how to stop it. Katy joined the pair and was soon staring at the pile of litter and shaking in her head. Okay, we need to tidy up all this litter that was already there, but we need to find the source of the problem. The litter flows down the stream, so we must go upstream to find where it's coming from, she said. Katy Mouse, you are a genius, said Old Froggy, hopping up and down in excitement. Lizzie and Alfie were disappointed they couldn't meet the little girl, but they were soon in good spirits again. Harry and Katy explained the new plan. They were going on an adventure upstream. Lizzie and Alfie would be explorers. So Harry, Katy, the children, and Old Froggy set off. Harry nipped back into the house as they reached the little bridge, and came out with a pack full of food. He handed a hazelnut to each of the little ones to munch on as they walked. They would still have their picnic, but they would have to walk with purpose to do so. Harry gave Alfie and Lizzie a challenge to keep them occupied as they walked. Alfie was to spot bottles, and Lizzie was to spot packets. The little ones immediately took up the challenge and scampered on ahead. It would give Harry a moment to chat with Katy and Mr. Frog. What will we do when we find the source of the litter problem? It comes from people, and 2 mice and a frog are no match for those giant people. Mr. Frog nodded, and Katy patted her husband on the shoulder. Don't worry about these things we know nothing about. When we find the source of the problem, we will discuss what we'll do then. If we need to, we will call a meeting for all of the Ridgeway Furrow creatures. I have faith that we can sort this problem out once and for all. Just remember, Harry, no amount of worrying will solve anything. As ever, you are right, my dear, agreed Harry. Let's just enjoy this walk for now. It was a glorious day for a walk. The sun lazily peeped from behind candy-floss clouds, warming their backs as they walked. The family territory of Ridgeway Furrow gave way to unfamiliar grounds as the stream wound its way towards the village. The trees on the edge grew sparse, giving the explorers a clear view of the village beyond. The light hit the red and grey roofs of the buildings in the village. At the far right of the field, grey stone cottages dotted across the horizon, and the mice could hear rumbles in the distance. Harry explained to Mr. Frog that they were cars, noisy things that growled and transported people from one place to the other. The road is one place that no animal in Ridgeway Furrow should ever visit, said Harry. Froggy and Katy knew that Harry was thinking back to his time in the town, and they weren't surprised to see a small tear in the corner of Harry's eye. None of the animals wanted to ask Harry why he was sad. They didn't want to upset him even more than he was, but Harry had obviously had bad experiences with roads. Alfie and Lizzie came running back, breaking the silence. Quick! Quick! We found it! We found the litter! Alfie shouted excitedly. I was counting packs, but there were too many to count. There's a mountain of litter, and strangers, Lizzie added, with her eyes wide with worry. Strangers? Said Harry. Right. You lot stay here. I'll creep ahead to check it out. Chapter 7. Naughty children. Harry crept forwards, keeping close to the grass verge which hung over the bank of the stream. He could hear voices of people ahead and loud splashes as if something had just dropped into the water. He climbed the verge and jumped up onto a log for a better look. There they were, the source of the problem. 3 little boys. Harry watched as they pushed and shoved each other. The biggest of the 3 grabbed a bottle and threw it as far as he could. It landed with a splash and bobbed up and down the stream towards Ridgeway Furrow. But that wasn't the worst of it. Harry looked around in horror at the mess and destruction. Along the edge of the stream was a wire mesh fence. It ran far into the distance, as far as Harry could see. These fences were never a problem for mice, as they could easily fit through the gaps, and usually they kept people out. Not this one though. This one had a child-sized hole ripped into it. It appeared that these children had made this place their den. Empty cans, crisp packets, bits of paper and plastic bottles littered the ground, hung from branches and blew into the stream. All along the wire mesh fence was a layer of litter, blown there by the wind. It collected at the bottom. Harry shook his head in dismay. Even if the animals cleared up all the mess, the children would be back to throw more into the stream. Harry hung his head and trudged back to tell Katy and Mr. Frog. Maybe Katy would have a plan. As he rounded the bend, Harry was surprised to find his family and friend gone. Harry glanced around, confused and extremely worried. Where could they be? Then he saw the reason. Sitting further up the bank was the little girl from yesterday. "Katy, Froggy," he called. "You can come out. It's okay. It's the kind child from yesterday." "Oh, Harry, we were so worried," Katy called from under the tree root. "When you didn't come back, we thought the people had captured you." "Oh, I'm fine, but unfortunately the situation is much worse than I thought." The little mouse explained to Katy and Mr. Frog what he had found. Katy listened and thought, "I wonder if our new friend can help. We are too small to take these 3 children, but maybe another child could." Harry crept towards the little girl. Like yesterday, she sat under a tree reading a book. Harry tapped on her toe and waited. The little girl looked up from her book, then squealed with delight. It made Harry jump, but he quickly realized the girl was just excited to see him. "Little mouse, you came back. I've been hoping you would. Do you want me to read you another story?" Harry called for the others to join him. The girl looked in amazement as the 3 mice and the frog hopped up the embankment towards her. "Oh, I've got an audience today," said the little girl, making it obvious that she wasn't going to hurt any of them. "Okay, this story is about a young wizard called Harry who goes off to a magical school." The child stopped reading for a moment and looked at the mouse, who was jumping up and down in excitement and pointing at the book. "Do you like this story?" she said. The mouse shook his head, pointed to himself, and then to the book again. The girl scrunched up her forehead, puzzled. Then it hit her. "Harry is your name too?" Then the mouse nodded and squeaked, and the others joined in. "Well, I guess I should call you Harry then. My name is Isla. Pleased to meet you all." The girl gave out a wonderful smile that made all the animals feel relaxed. "Whoa, Harry, that's amazing," said Katy. "I never thought a little girl would be able to understand us. But maybe this one can. Chapter 8. Help from the little girl. We need to get the child to follow us. Maybe if she sees the litter, she will help, said Harry to Katy and Mr. Frog. It's certainly worth a try, agreed Frog. I'll go grab some litter out of the stream, Harry. Katy, you try to bring the little girl. Froggy hopped off and landed with a splash in the stream. Isla clapped her hands together and giggled. She put her book down and crawled to the water's edge to watch Mr. Frog, who was now swimming through clear water. What are you doing, little frog? She pondered out loud as she watched him dive under the shallow water and emerge with a plastic bag in his mouth. He swam to the edge, and the mice took the bag from him and placed it on the bank. The frog swam to the opposite side, grabbed the plastic bottle, and pushed it into Harry's paws. Oh, I see. Yesterday when I rescued you from the stream, you were trying to clear the litter. Is that right, Harry? Isla asked. Harry and Katy nodded. I think my plan might actually work, Katy, Harry said with glee. Now we just need to get her to follow us upstream to where the naughty children are. Harry tapped on Isla's hand and ran a few steps. Then he turned around and waited. Isla just watched him. Harry tried again, and Katy nudged the girl with her nose. Oh, you want me to follow you? Harry, is that it? Isla said. She wasn't sure, but she was convinced these creatures were trying to tell her something. She wished she could understand what they were saying to her, but she knew they were doing a pretty good job anyway. Harry nodded in response and scampered on a little further. Isla stood up and then followed Harry and Mr. Frog. Katy decided to stay back with the little ones as they were happily playing. Jumping on and off Isla's book, the plan was working so far. Harry just hoped that Isla would understand the problem once they got her to the den of litter. As they walked up the stream, Isla couldn't stop talking, telling Harry all about the cottage she lived in with her mum, dad, and big brother, Archie. From what he could tell, it was over the other side of Flora Rabbit's field. A short walk for a girl, but a long trek for a mouse. Even a day or two. They arrived at the corner of the high wire fence. See that building over there, Harry? Isla said, pointing to a large red brick building across the grass. That's my school, Willowbank Primary, and that grass over there is our playground. See that tree? The big oak. That's where I sit at playtime and read my book. Lots of other children sit there too. The ones that like to read anyway. Sometimes we run around and play too, but sometimes it's nice to just take it easy and relax in the sun. Reading is my favourite thing in the whole world, Isla said with a smile. School is finished now though for the day. My mum lets me play here when provided I don't leave the field. Harry always wished he could read. He used to look at pictures in the newspapers and magazines when he lived in the city. The animals around him always told each other stories, and sometimes a travelling animal would pass through and tell stories from far away. Harry and Mr. Frog stopped. They had reached the bend just before the den, where the children were now throwing litter around. Isla stopped talking and listened. The voices of the three children carried through the trees, breaking through those beautiful countryside noises. Isla crept forward and peeped around the bend. Her eyes grew wide. Oh, Harry, she whispered, I can see the problem now. Those naughty boys have broken through the fence. Mr. Worrell, our headmaster, is going to be so angry when he finds out. Harry nodded. He was so relieved that she understood. He shouted to Mr. Frog that they should head back to Katy and the children, and then beckoned to Isla. The three unlikely companions headed back, and Harry quickly told Katie what had happened. "Harry, I'm so sorry that those boys have messed up your stream. I'm going to tell my mum, and she will speak to Mr. Worrell tomorrow. Charlie, Zach, and Theo are going to be in so much trouble. They're such naughty boys, and bullies too." Isla grabbed her book and got up. "I'll come to the willow tree after school tomorrow." "Bye-bye, little mice. Bye-bye, frog." Isla turned around and headed back across the field towards her home. Harry, Katie, Mr. Frog, and the children all cheered. They had successfully completed their mission, found the source of the litter, and Isla was going to help. "But why do these boys do it, Dad?" asked Alfie. "Maybe they don't realise that they're causing a problem for someone. Maybe they're just having fun," said Harry, trying to see the good in everyone. "But we still haven't had our picnic," Alfie whined, rubbing his tummy. "Yeah, Dad, you promised us a picnic by the stream," added Lizzie. Katie laughed. "Okay, I think we all deserve a bit of fun after a long trip." She opened the bag and got out some leaf wraps. The little mice squeaked with delight at all the delicious food. The mice dined over clover and sorrel salad, beech nut pie, followed by Katie's special carrot cake. Mr. Frog politely declined and hopped back into the stream to catch some flies. That was more his kind of thing after all. "Ooh, flies for tea? Yuck," said Alfie, pretending to be sick. "Alfie, that's rude," said Harry. "All animals like to eat different things. Mr. Frog didn't say yuck when Mummy offered him a slice of carrot cake, now did he?" Alfie shook his head. "I guess not. Can I have Mr. Frog's slice of cake then?" Harry couldn't help but laugh at his young son's ability to think with his tummy. The family enjoyed a lovely afternoon together on the bank of the stream. The kind of day where you didn't do anything special, which meant that everything they did was special, because they were together. The little mice played hide and seek in the long grass. Mr. Frog found a cool flat stone to sunbathe on, and Harry and Katie lay back and relaxed in the sunshine. It had been another successful day. "Another wonderful day we won't forget in a hurry," said Harry. Chapter 9. The Ridgeway Furrow News Network. Harry couldn't wait to meet up with Isla the following day. He remembered she'd said something about meeting at the willow tree after school, but he had no idea when that would be. You see, mice do not measure time on watches and clocks as people do. Time in Ridgeway Furrow is measured by the shining of the sun, meal times and whether or not it is raining. For Harry, no rain meant a long stroll, mild rain meant a swift walk, and heavy rain told him it was time to stay indoors. Today was a long stroll day. As he had no idea about time, Harry ran to the willow tree just after breakfast. Of course, Isla wasn't there. Harry pottered to the stream to look for litter, but even that didn't take long, as there was not even a sliver of plastic floating in the water. The mouse settled himself underneath the tree to wait, actually quite pleased he had some time to himself. Harry loved his family, but everyone needs to make time for themselves sometimes. It was another glorious sunny day. Harry lay back in the grass and watched the sunbeams dance between the branches. When above, he saw the birds soaring across the cloudless sky. He watched mesmerized as they dipped and dived, gliding on the breeze. Harry let out a big yawn. "What a great day to be a mouse," he whispered. He was still tired after his adventures the day before. Just a little snooze, he started to think as his eyelids closed. Harry dreamt of Ridgeway Furrow without litter, the beautiful stream, and all the other animals playing and laughing together as the sun went down on a summer's evening. Harry, Harry, a distant voice called. Something sharp poked him in his tummy. Harry, wake up, my mousy friend. Harry opened his eyes and blinked in the sunlight. The pokey thing was a long black beak, attached to a shiny feathered head. Harry blinked again and looked into the mischievous eyes of Jerry Jackdaw. How could you be asleep at a time like this? Jerry laughed. Oh, you know, said Harry. A little snooze never did any harm to anyone. No time for snoozing. Tales to tell, things happen, exciting things, Jerry babbled excitedly. What exciting things? Harry was awake now, and sat up to give Jerry his full attention. He didn't want to appear rude, and the jackdaw was obviously excited. Upstream, I went to see. Things are changing, lots of shouting. The shiny things are going, Jerry continued. What are you talking about? Harry asked, puzzled. What he's trying to say in his bird-brained way is the stream is being cleared up by the school. Harry turned to see Mr. Mole walking towards him. Mole settled down on the grass beside Harry. What are you doing here, Mole? Aren't you supposed to be asleep at this time? Harry asked. He wondered if he might still be dreaming. Well, I was trying to sleep, but I was awoken by some animals walking loudly past my hole, saying that the litter was gone. Mole replied with a wink. I just can't believe it, said Harry. But how did they know about the litter situation? As far as Harry knew, only Mr. Frog, Katy, and the children knew about yesterday's events. Oh, well, old Froggy told Vera, the voles that told the squirrels, and you know what squirrels are like for passing on news. It didn't take long before one of the rat twins, I can never tell them apart, came to tell me and Martha, Mo replied. And I heard from a wood pigeon, who heard from a crow, who was listening in when Mrs. Squirrel told Flora Rabbit. So I flew off to look for myself, Jerry added. Harry was just about to ask Jerry to explain when he had seen Isla poking her head out from under the willow branches. Mole scurried up the bank and dived into a hole in the grass verge, head first, which caused Harry to giggle. Mole hadn't been very brave at all, and the sight of Mole diving head first into what must have been a very deep hole looked very funny. Jerry fluttered to a branch and leaned down to listen. Hello, Harry, Isla said when she saw the little mouse. I was hoping I'd see you here again. She sat down on the grass next to Harry. I have so much to tell you. Harry listened in silence as Isla explained how her mum had spoken to the headmaster and how he had gone down to the hole in the fence at break time and caught the 3 naughty boys red-handed. Harry didn't quite understand why having red hands was important, but he was relieved that the boys had been caught. Mr. Warhol made them clean up all the litter after school. They were not happy. Isla clapped her hands with glee. Then Mr. Hobbs, the caretaker, fixed the fence so they couldn't do it again. Harry climbed up onto the hand and hugged her finger. He wasn't sure how to thank the child, but he hoped that she would understand. He looked up into her eyes and gave her the best twitchy-nosed smile. Isla smiled back, and she looked sad too. The little mouse wished he could ask her what was the matter. As if she'd read his mind, Isla sighed and started to talk to the little mouse. Oh, Harry, I'm glad I could help. At least one thing has gone right. I'm supposed to be taking photographs for the school photography competition, but I've no idea what to do. You see, the theme is happiness. My brother Archie is taking photos of his football team. My friend Scarlett is doing hers on the dance class. And Billy is taking pictures of the cakes in his mum's bakery. What can I do? I'm happiest when I'm sat reading under this tree. It's hardly an exciting subject, is it? She sighed again and gently set Harry down on the ground. I love taking photographs, but I'm not very good with ideas. And I love being out in the country, but it's not a very great theme for happiness. Just a load of trees and a stream. I've never won any other competitions in school. I always have to sit and watch the other children go up and get their prize. Of course, I'm happy for them, but I'm also disappointed. I would love to see how it looks and feels to win something. Isla put her arms around her legs and put her head on her knees. Harry had an idea. Isla had helped him with all the creatures by reporting the boys who'd messed up their stream. Maybe the animals could repay her in kindness. He called to Jerry, who had been listening from above. Hey Jerry, do you think we can gather all the animals as possible and bring them here? Sure thing, boss. I'm fast, and I'm the fastest jackdaw in the whole of Ridgeway. Jerry's words faded into the breeze as he'd already left off on his mission. Mole, are you still down there? Harry shouted down the bank. A whiskered black nose poked out of the hole. Come on out, Mole. The little girl is so kind, she won't hurt you. Slowly, the mole crept towards Harry, keeping an eye on the girl, who was still sat with her head in her knees. Are you sure this is safe, Harry? The mole asked fearfully. Of course, this is Isla. She's the girl that stopped the litter from getting into the stream, Harry explained. Can you gather Martha and any other animals you can find along the way? I have an idea to thank Isla for her help. Caw! Caw! Meeting at the willow tree. Caw! Caw! Meeting now. Harry laughed as he heard Jackdaw soar overhead, summoning animals. Jerry was certainly proving to be a helpful friend to have. People had their little magic boxes that they talked into to pass on messages, but he had Jerry, and the noisy jackdaw was very efficient at getting the word out. Chapter 10. Repaying the Kindness. First to join him was Katy and the children, followed by Mr. Frog and the froglets. Mole arrived shortly after with Martha. Martha Mole hung back shyly, a little in awe of the little girl. Next to the willow came a tumble of fur that bounced and squeaked with excitement, and Harry was nearly bowled over by her young kits. Sorry, Harry, said Flora as she tried to calm her little ones down. Next, Sir Albert Hare strolled under the willow burrows, with as much authority and grace as a hare could possibly have, accompanied by his friend Mac Badger. Finally, Jerry appeared overhead, leading a rather mixed flock of birds. Another jackdaw, 2 crows, a wood pigeon, and a kingfisher from the pond down the hill. Yet again, Harry was astonished by the kindness of his friends to come running when he asked for help. Katy seemed to read his mind. The creatures are happy to help you, my dear. You do have a reputation around Ridgeway Furrow for helping any creature in need. You know how happy it makes you feel when you do a good deed? Well, now they feel happy to get to do a good deed too. Harry smiled and nodded to his wife. He realized that some of the animals were staying as far away from Isla as possible. My friends, this little girl is also a friend. She's the one who helped stop the litter from going into our stream. She saved our stream. Now she needs a favour from us. Do you see that black box in her hand? That is a camera. And for people, they take photographs. What's a photograph? Yarrow asked, creeping up to the camera and sniffing it. A photograph is a picture of whatever the camera is pointing at, Harry explained. He once chatted with a dog in the city who complained that her owner was always dressing her up in frilly hats and taking photographs of her. The dog said it made her look silly, but it made her owner happy. Harry looked at the little ones. They still looked confused. Never mind about the camera. What I need you to do is to sit on a log, or a branch, or in the stream, and stay very still while Isla points a camera at you, okay? Will it hurt? Asked Clover, hiding behind Lizzie. Not one bit. You just keep still until the camera goes click. It's extremely important that you look happy, said Harry, which shouldn't be a problem for you lot. The assembly of animals laughed and relaxed. All the animals nodded and agreed. I'll go first to show you how it's done, said Harry. He hopped onto Isla's chest and tickled her nose to get her attention. Isla rubbed her nose and discovered that the tickle was a mouse. Oh, hi, Harry. Isla suddenly caught sight of a medley of birds and animals huddled under the willow. Harry nudged the camera and pointed to a log. He climbed up and sat, his tail curled perfectly in the air. Oh, stay there, Harry. That would make a brilliant photograph. Isla grabbed the camera, fiddled with the buttons, and then click. The picture was taken. See, said Harry. That's it. Simple. Isla looked at the photograph she had taken on the screen of her camera. She could hardly contain her excitement. She had never seen such a good picture of a happy mouse. I'm going to call that one Harry the Happy Mouse, she said. I want a photograph. Yarrow bounded to Isla and pointed at the camera, then hopped back to his sisters. The three young kits fluffed out their tails and pointed their ears high. Isla giggled and clicked the camera one more time. I get it, Harry. I get it. You've brought your friends so I can take some interesting photographs. Of course, it's not just reading here that makes me happy. It's being in this beautiful place surrounded by wildlife. That is amazing. Harry took charge, leading Isla to each of the animals in turn. Jerry posed proudly on the branch so that Isla could take a close-up picture of his rainbow-sheened feathers. Mr. Mole and Martha pretended they were just emerging from their hole. Isla snapped their velvet noses just peeping out. Sir Albert struck a noble pose on the bank, looking over to the fields, and Mick Badger curled up pretending to be asleep in his patch of leaves. Each of the animals and birds tried to take their picture better than the last with a more interesting pose. But Kingfisher stole the show. He flew high above the stream, then dove as if to catch a fish. Just as he was about to hit the water, he slowed midair. His turquoise wings fanned perfectly, and his beak just skimmed the surface of the stream. Whoa! Said the other animals in unison. Kingfisher landed next to Katy and Harry. I know what people like, he said. For some reason, they like to take photos of me. There was one time when a man and a woman stayed in the little tent where I live. For days the camera lens was pointing out of the tent the whole time. In the end, I just felt sorry for them and flew past. They took lots of pictures, then left, said Kingfisher, very proud of himself. Once all the pictures had been taken, Isla ran back to the shady spot under the willow. She fiddled with the camera once more, then beckoned the animals to come have a look. You would never have believed how shy Martha was just an hour before, because she climbed right up onto Isla's knee to get the best view. Isla slowly scrolled through the photographs she had taken. She held the camera screen out to show each creature their picture. "Look at me! Look at me! Do I look handsome?" I do look handsome," Jerry crowed and fluffed up his feathers in pride. "You may think people want pictures of you, Mr. Kingfisher, but look at me." Isla couldn't understand the chatter between the animals, but she watched their reactions to the pictures. She felt they must understand. It was far too much of a coincidence for all these wild creatures to show up just as she needed a subject for the photography competition, and for them to be so tame. Then Isla had an idea. "Harry, I want to take one last picture, but I need everyone together, okay? We need to stay very still until I say we can move." Harry nodded. Isla shuffled the moles, bunnies, and baby mice off of her knee and placed the camera on a log. She knelt down to look through it, fiddled with the buttons, then sat back in her original spot. "Quick, everyone, gather round me." The little ones leapt back onto Isla's knee. Jerry and the birds perched on her head and shoulders. Albert and Mac sat either side with Flora. Mr. Frog and the moles snuggled in front. Isla held out her hand, and Katy and Harry hopped on. She held the mice up next to her face, just in time for the camera to go click. Chapter 11. The Happiest Mouse in Ridgeway Furrow. Several days went by. Several quiet days, in fact. Harry had enjoyed all the adventures he'd had with his friends, but he was quite relieved to go for a whistle and wander without incident. Harry learned a bit about people time, and he soon realized that Isla came to the willow after dinner, but before it was time to go back for supper. Talking of supper, since he'd become the first creature of Ridgeway Furrow to make friends with a little girl, he'd become quite a star. Every animal wanted to invite Harry and his family for tea, so he could tell the tales of his adventures. Now, Harry was a modest mouse, but he did love telling a story. Harry was just pottering back to the little bridge to meet up with Katy and the children when the silence was broken. "Caw! Caw!" "Harry, I have news." Jerry swooped, skidded, and landed in Harry's paws. Harry laughed at his excited friend. "Come back with me. I bet Katy would love to hear about this." Jerry could barely contain his excitement, but soon they were back at Harry's home under the bridge. "Caw! Caw!" "Hurry, hurry, tales to tell," Jerry shouted through the doorway. Katy hurried the little ones outside to see what the commotion was. "I think Jerry is about to burst if he has to wait any longer to tell his story, Katy." Harry laughed and turned to the jackdaw, who was hopping from one foot to the other impatiently. I went to school. Isla's school. I went every day and paid through the window. Jackdaws are good at peeping. Then have this thing in the morning that they call assembly. They just all seem to sit in a hall while an adult tells a story. Today I saw a big person, and the photographs were all hanging around the room, and the children were stood in front of them. Then I saw Isla. The big person gave Isla a shiny thing, the shiniest thing I had ever seen, and all the other people cheered. Isla won the photography competition. She won! "Hooray!" shouted the mice. All of her friends were hugging her. She had handed out a big piece of paper with a huge first on it. Then 2 other adults and a young boy all hugged Isla and lifted her in the air. That must have been her mum and her dad. And Archie, Harry said. But the best bit, said Jerry, very excited to finish his story, was when she was just about to leave. Isla looked out of the window and saw me. She waved and held her shiny thing and piece of paper in the air. Whoa! If I hurry back to the willow tree, we might be able to see her before tea time, Harry suggested. The little mice didn't take much persuading and scampered off ahead. Harry and Katy sauntered behind holding hands. It couldn't have happened to a nicer girl. I'm so happy for Isla, Katy agreed. She wanted to win something. Harry and Katy were just about to duck under the willow branches when they heard squeals coming from beneath the tree. Daddy, Daddy, look, Lizzie squealed. Caw, caw. So handsome, look at me, Jerry cawed in delight. Harry looked up through the willow leaves to see children and Jerry hopping around Isla's feet as she placed something next to the tree trunk. Isla stepped back to reveal the group photograph. He scurried forwards for a closer look. Katy slid up next to him and put her paws in his. Together, they gazed at the picture. Do you like it? Asked Isla. I won, everyone, I won, shouted Isla. And it's all thanks to you. I've never won anything like that before. The competition had been judged by a famous wildlife photographer, and he had told the children that he had never seen such clear pictures of animals, and certainly not a kingfisher. I imagine he loves the pictures of me too, said Jerry, and everyone laughed. Harry looked at each of the animals in the picture. Jerry proudly stood upon Isla's head. His little ones beamed up for the camera, and his and Katy's own smiles matched the ones on Isla's face. This is for you, said Isla, handing over the photo of the group. Nothing would make me happier than to know that this photograph will be displayed in Ridgeway, Furrow. Harry looked at his friends and family, then nuzzled Katy's nose with his own, and sighed a happy sigh. Isla sat down with the animals and told them all at length of the competition, and all the animals stayed to listen, sitting around as the light changed from yellow to orange to dark red. Once he had said goodbye to Isla and the light started to fade, they all walked back together. As they passed each of their homes, the group of animals got smaller and smaller. The moonlight lit the last few steps up to Katy and Harry's home. They each carried one of their children who were fast asleep. The light faded over Ridgeway Furrow, and there was electricity in the air. Harry looked at the sleeping children, then looked at Katy and said, I must be the happiest mouse in all of Ridgeway Furrow. The end.